Welcome to Global Forum, a platform of discussion of global issues from global perspectives. Today we have a very distinguished guest, Congressman Ellison, the first elected Muslim congressperson, member of Judiciary Committee, but I think most importantly in our context, he has become one of the principal organizers of community energies and forces towards not a politics of despair, but politics of hope, politics of possibilities, and creating this kind of vision of self-empowerment. Welcome, Congressman.
Pleased to be here, Doctor. Honored to meet you and to be here today.
Thank you, sir. The first question I want to ask you is, we have a sense of despair in the community which was expressed this afternoon also. How do you understand that despair, and what is your judgment for those people who are not here today, how to deal with that despair?
Well, it's no secret that in post 9/11 America, and even somewhat before that, Muslims have had a number of events that have made them feel not necessarily a part of American society, living somewhat on the margins of society. I can't tell you how many sisters have had their hijabs pulled off or have been discriminated in some way because of that. Many people in post 9/11 were interviewed by the FBI who did absolutely nothing wrong, and some people were taken into custody, deported for having nothing to do with terrorism, just technical violations, and so there is a certain amount of despair. But what I say is that, after the hardship, comes the ease, and that, God won't intervene on behalf of a people until they do something on their own behalf. But I believe that when you work in a righteous way and in good faith, there's something about the makeup of the universe, God, that conspires in your favor. Breaks start coming your way when you don't allow yourself to get embittered, but you allow yourself to get better. And we'll remember, as Muslims, we have an excellent example in the person of Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, who encountered extreme hardship, even from his family, loss of status within his very prestigious family, all kinds of challenges that came his way, and yet always moved forward with a full heart, with a full spirit, faith in God, turning to prayer when he felt he needed it, and even when he didn't need it. So the thing is that my message is things are going to get better, God willing, if we continue to press forward, organize, get our message out as you have done so excellently, and continue to be involved and be part of the solution.
Excellent. Now, this despair that we see parties rooted in the government actions, both at the level of law enforcement agencies like FBI and Homeland Security and other entities and customs, also in terms of legislation. Why is it that the pendulum is still swinging in the direction? We have now pending legislation, I think HR 1955, radicalization of thought, which is nothing short of thought policing. Why is that moving in that direction, and what can be done by civil rights coalitions all over America to change that?
Well, what needs to be done is we need to be part of the conversation. In America, as you know, there are conversations that go on all the time. What are we going to do about immigration? What are we going to do about the housing crisis? Well, what are we going to do about what is the national debate going to look like when Muslims put their voices in the debate on the issue of national security? As you know, Muslims died in the Twin Towers. There's no question about it. And to kill people who are innocent and is antithetical to what we believe in. But we've got to find a way through elections, through offering legislation, through participating, through voting, to become the kind of bloc that must be recognized and respected. As I said earlier, sometimes it's not that you're doing the wrong thing, it's that you haven't been doing the right thing long enough or enough. I say stay involved, get involved, don't back down, continue to participate. So I think that, for example, on HR 1955, this bill calls for a national panel that would be charged with investigating what causes people to turn toward radicalism, things like that. Why don't we jump in front of this thing and say we want to insist that there would be Muslims on this panel, that we want to make sure that, that the real story gets told, that it doesn't simply be a vehicle for somebody to attack the mosque, attack the Muslim community. This is engagement, and that is what I think is the best solution. Because certainly if we don't engage in the conversation, it will still go on, but it will go on without our voice. So let's get involved.
Congressman, isn't there a risk when we put Muslims on that, and there are all kinds of Muslims, that there are all kinds of Christians, all kinds of Jews,
absolutely,
that we actually might be promoting a mindset which actually is aimed at thought control and silencing public discussion. And we know already the discussion in this country is within a very small framework, very narrow framework. So the very fact that state deals with thought control and thought manipulation, shouldn't we challenge the root cause instead of trying to remedy only its manifestations?
I think we should challenge it on all fronts. Challenge the root cause, absolutely. But let me just tell you what big companies do when they're engaged in certain practices that are not good for consumers. First of all, they try to stop any kind of reform. Then once there's momentum behind the reform, they start trying to alter it to a direction that they want. We have to at least do as much. So the fact is that, yeah, deal with it at its root. If you can't stop it at the root, then try to shift it so that it actually achieves your goals and not others. This is what I mean by engagement on various fronts. The fact is that America does not know what engenders violent radicalism within its population. Because if it knew, it could have done something about Timothy McVeigh. It could have done something about so many other non-Muslims who have done so much damage to our country, but we don't know anything about it. What do we know about what were the root causes of Columbine or Virginia Tech or the shooting at Red Lake? These are serious social problems, and we don't know anything about them. What if we could say, look, we want to know what makes a Timothy McVeigh tick. We're not trying to stop people from expressing themselves, but we want to know. One thing we do know, if I may add this, brother, please. One thing we do know, that somebody who's getting on an airplane to go to a business meeting is not the root cause of radicalism, right? Some businessman minding his own business or seeing his family is not the root. So we are bothering all these folks on the airplanes when they're just 6 imams in Minnesota got on the plane to pray. They passed through all security. They still were thrown off the plane. We know that this activity, praying, is not what engenders radicalism. Maybe if we understood it better, we could deal with it better, but we don't know anything. So let's attack it at the root, attack it at the branch, deal with it all along.
But isn't there some certain assumptions that go very much into understanding the word radical? For instance, when a state has a policy that kills 500,000 kids because of hunger and poverty, isn't that radicalism also?
I certainly believe that it is. I believe that it's unjust, it's wrong. We must challenge it, we must raise our voices, we must confront it at every turn. We must not only march in the streets, we got to enter legislation, we got to use the courts, we got to sue. We have to go outside of government and build understanding. Let me just tell you this. What if, let me just use our imaginations for a moment. What if between 1991 and 2003, Americans of all faiths, all colors, all cultures got together with food and medicine and sent it to the people of Iraq? We may have been able to prevent 500,000 Iraqi children from dying. Not everything has to be a government solution, but we've got to engage on multiple levels. Some people say, if you were to do a humanitarian effort like that, some people might say, well, aren't you accepting the assumption of the sanctions and the war if you try to relieve that human suffering? Aren't you sort of accepting the basic assumption? No, we're not accepting the basic assumption, but we are using this in humanitarian effort to show that the war was wrong from the beginning. So interim measures have value.
Absolutely, absolutely. But let me ask you another question then. As we are looking at different possibilities of action, including interim actions, will it be appropriate on part or justified on part of not only Muslims but many, many fellow Americans that since the last election, since Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi became the Speaker, Democrats have failed to do what they were expected to do to rectify the situation? And why should then people invest so much confidence in the Democratic Party?
You know, you're right about that. I'll tell you that the American people gave the Democrats a mandate in 2006 to get out of Iraq, and we're still there. and that is something serious to consider.